Let's have a look at tracked changes in Microsoft Excel. If you have a workbook that can be accessed by more than one person, then this is a very useful feature to see what changes those individuals have made. In order to make this feature work, we have to share the document first. So that's our first step. Select Tools and drop down to Share the Workbook. This allows us to tick this tick box which says allow changes by more than one user at a time. So I'll click inside there, that switches sharing on, and then OK. Excel now wants me to save this document. Now bear in mind, if we're tracking changes that different people have made, then obviously we need to save this document in a suitable location. So this is what Excel is prompting us to do now. So we select OK. And it just reminds us that although we're switching on sharing, it doesn't actually track every change to a document. In this instance, it's telling me that working with macros won't be available. Click on OK. Track changes is really about changes to the data. That's the main thing that we're looking at. Once we've shared the document, we know it's shared because on the title bar it tells us that the document is shared. Let's go ahead and make some changes. We'll change Taylor to Tinian. Corner is actually female, so we'll change that. And Hart lives in Carlisle. So we've made some changes there. So let's look at tracking them now, so we can see at a glance what changes have been made. For this, we select the Tools menu again, drop down this time to Track Changes, and then Highlight Changes. This allows us to select what kind of changes we want to make and to highlight the changes on the screen. So I want to highlight the changes since the document was last saved and changes by everyone. We could make selections there to just select by certain people, but obviously there's only me made any changes. Notice also that we've got a tick in the track changes while editing box at the top. If we want to stop sharing and tracking changes at any time, we can just simply remove that tick. Click on OK. And it might be slightly difficult for you to see, but we can see there's boxes around the changed cells. And also if I hover over the changed cells, it pops up in like a comment that tells us who's made the change and what from and what to. So they're the changes that we made. We can see those quite easily at a quick glance. But there's another way of seeing those changes also. And for that we can select, still in the same place, Tools, Track Changes, Highlight Changes. But this time, instead of highlighting them on the screen, we're going to list the changes on a new worksheet. Click on OK. And all the changes made are listed on a new worksheet called History. Now this worksheet is only available when we make this selection. As soon as we save the document, this worksheet will disappear. But it lists there all the changes that have been made, when, by whom, and also what the changes were. Now this won't replace a backup, but if a mistake had been made, you could select perhaps the information from these cells and paste it back into the originals. That's not what it's there for, but you could use it in that way. And also if you've got more than one person editing the document, then you can use the filters at the top to select various people and various dates and times and fine-tune what it is that you are looking at. So when I save this, the History tab disappears. But we can switch it back on again using that feature. What we can also do, as the owner of the workbook, is to decide whether or not to accept or reject those changes that have been made. So we do that again on the Tools menu and Track Changes, but this time instead of highlighting the changes, we can accept or reject the changes. On this dialog box, again, we can select the timescales of when we want to look at the changes. We can select whose changes we want to monitor, and then we click on OK. And this is telling me that there's 3 changes being made. It's found the first one, who made it, when, and what the change was. C6 from Taylor to Tinian. As the owner of the workbook, I can decide to accept or reject that change. That particular change I will reject, and then it moves on to the next one. Male to female, I'll accept that one and reject that one. So you can see that I've made those changes. Those are now inbuilt into the document as accepted changes. So that's accepting and rejecting tracked changes. What we did is we switched sharing on by putting a tick in the box. Then we made changes after saving the document in a shared location. We made changes, and then we can monitor those changes by doing Tools, Track Changes. We can accept or reject the changes, or we can highlight the changes either on the current screen or on a new worksheet. That's accepting and rejecting tracked changes.